my family was, in my mind at least, it was like Mormon royalty. It's like my grandmother was primary president of the worldwide church for 25 years. My grandparents were all on the general Sunday school board. My dad had been a bishop, and then he became a stake president, and then he became an area representative, and then he became a 70. And not by the time he was a 70, I was already out. But there was this sort of like, how Mormons are very much what was that seminary film, Not of This World? Do you remember that? Which my brother was in, by the way. How Mormons are made to believe that they're different.
Right.
That, there's us and then there's the world. Even within Mormonism, I felt like there was another barrier, which was my family. Now, this was not communicated to me consciously.
Right.
And certainly there was no malice. But that's the message that I received. And I take responsibility for that.
So when did you first get inklings that you were homo?
Well, I have always known. I don't think I knew what it was. I didn't have like a name for it, but I don't remember a time where I didn't know that I was different than a lot of the other boys. Not all of the other boys, but most of them. Like my first celebrity crush was Sean Cassidy, but I didn't know what that was.
Right.
I just knew there was like I don't even know what is true about, I think this is what's true. That there was some contest. Like if you sold a certain number of whatever, like candy bars or magazine subscriptions or whatever it was, that you would win, like, you would go to like a Sean Cassidy concert and you would meet him or something. But it was only for girls. And I remember being really upset by that I could not enter the contest.
To go on a date with him.
To go on a date. My first memories looking back were when I was, 5 and 6 years old and in love with my swim coaches. And I didn't know that was... they weren't sexual feelings. But they were romantic feelings. I didn't know that was gay at the time.
Right.
But it certainly was. I mean, when I really think back to those first swim coach crushes, I can see how innocent they were. But basically as early as I can remember, the shamefulness of it was linked. It was the same. I knew that something was different and something was, like, wrong. Like it was something to be ashamed of, something to hide, something to pretend not to be. I mean, I had early sexual experiences, like, with various nameless people. Only because...
Same age or older?
Both. There are two, really, that are the main ones. And it was ongoing, and one was significantly older that in my mind, in my mind I just blamed him so much. And, the issue for me is, like, I thought that that's what caused my homosexuality for a long, long time. And that's really clear that that's simply not true. I mean, I had to really get clear with myself and look before any of that happened. Everything was in place. In very real ways, I loved both these men very much. They were like, that's what it was. It was, I mean, there was a lot of shit I had to work through. There's a lot of, like, shit I had to work through. But
was it reciprocal? Did they feel the same way?
I don't know if I don't know if it was the same for them, because I don't think either of them were gay. But, so I don't know that they had the same emotional thing that I had going on. I think boys fool around. I was totally unaware of that. Straight boys.
Yeah.
I mean, all my friends now, it's like boys fool around.
Oh, Todd, I could tell you some stories.
I think I told my dad, like, multiple times, I may have told him this multiple times before, but I remember the time where he got it, where I said to him, I feel the same way about men as you do about women, and I've never known anything different. And I just remember him going, huh. Like, I don't know if that was as big a moment for him as it seemed to be for him, as it was, as it was for me, but I could see him get it and realize that I had never known anything else. And I don't know, but I think my dad, I should ask him, I think my dad pulled some strings and got me, and I actually don't know if that's true, but I think he, anyway, I went in the last minute, and I went to BYU, and I, for some reason, once I got there, I was like, as long as I'm here, I'm going to give it the old college try, and I tried really hard to be, like, really into it, into the whole church thing, and at the end of my first year at BYU, I had 2 torrid affairs. One with a non-BYU student, and one with a BYU student who was in the middle of a separation and a divorce. And those 2 things just blew up in my face, and my own homophobia just exploded, and internalized homophobia just exploded because they ended badly, and I had a big conservative backlash from those experiences, and I went into therapy. I saw the MTC therapist. So I was going to the MTC once a week, maybe more, and for a year I saw him and prepared myself for a mission, because I was supposed to go at the end of my freshman year, but because I'd had this experience, these 2 experiences, I couldn't. I had to wait a year. So I went back to a second year at BYU and, saw this therapist every week and, thought I was trying to do the right thing. And it's so obvious in retrospect. I actually have to, mentally transport myself back to the time where it felt like betraying God to come out. It felt like death to come out. That's how heavy it was. It's like, in my mind, that was it. But there's this crazy unspoken agreement that denial is like actual denial. Denial is like, it's no joke. I could sit in a room full of gay men and know they're gay and still agree to say they're not. That was being a young ambassador. It's like, that's what it was. Actually, in some ways, I loved my mission because nobody asked me why I wasn't dating. I got to hang out with a guy all the time. I didn't really realize this until retrospect, but I loved it. And I was totally excelled at it because, I was really focused. I was a really good missionary, and then I would get sucker punched by my sexuality. A couple experiences I remember. We were riding along in we had these white bikes that we had. They were bright white bikes and these white helmets and our white shirts, because our mission president wanted us to be very, very conspicuous. So we would ride around, and I remember we were riding along and we stopped by a gas station, and there was a gay couple that was pulling into the gas station in a pickup truck, and the guy in the passenger seat had his hand like this on the back of the other guy's neck. There was nothing sexual about it. And I saw that, and it was like a thunderbolt coming up through the ground, through my entire body. And I started hyperventilating. And it was like, I wasn't turned on. It wasn't a sexual response. It was like, what are you doing? It was like this, and there was no thought behind it. It was completely instinctive. And, my companion was like, what's wrong? I'm sitting there hyperventilating. My heart is beating out of my chest. And I was like, what am I doing? Just it was the act of tenderness is what was that affected me so much.